Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostest. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, you were not with us last time we recorded, and what have you been up to? Or where did you go? You were in Michigan, weren't you?
Yeah, we went to Michigan. We went to I think, is Lake Michigan the one that's near, like, Chicago and all that?
Yes, that would be Lake Michigan.
Yeah, we went on a little trip to go do photo shoots and stuff on one of the dunes near there.
Oh, cool.
It was pretty fun.
Nice. While you were gone, I don't know if you heard this or not, but there is a story circulating around on the internet, or at least in our part of where we live down here in Cincinnati, about vampire coven in Dayton, Ohio, which is like the craziest thing I think I've ever heard ever come out of the news loop recently.
So I was talking.
Have you heard about that?
Well, when I was at lunch today, we were actually talking about it, which is funny.
Yeah.
And then someone I know said they know someone who was in it or something.
Really? That was in the cult or whatever it was?
They know someone who was in it.
Really? Because that, like, happened back in the 90s, like,
really?
When I was, like, in college. Yeah, like, all that went down then. And apparently they had, I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but there were a lot of goth clubs in downtown Dayton. And, like, so, I mean, you know how that is. You know, you got goth, and then from there people are like, ooh, let's open a vampire club, you know?
Oh, is it something to do with the one that if you would go to it, you would die? Because it was actually like a front for the vampires to kill people.
That's what they said, yeah.
Yeah,
apparently,
that's what someone mentioned at lunch today, too. So.
Oh, really? Interesting. Because when I was researching the story, what I found out was there was a gentleman that actually went missing in Dayton, and they said that it was some guy. He had like a wife and a child, a newborn baby at home, and he just like ups and decides to go to downtown Dayton at 11 o'clock at night to go to some goth nightclub called, it had a really the Abyss, or I don't know, it had some weird gothy kind of name that you would associate with a goth nightclub, and nobody saw him since then. But they think is what happened is that the vampire coven that they claim is in downtown Dayton used him in a cult ritual, and they ended up chopping off his head. Get this, they chopped off his head and they sold it to some other occultist who wanted it. I don't know what you do with somebody's head, but this dude wanted it, and he bought it like in the club because like a bartender there was talking about how, he saw it. And then they disposed of the guy's body. Apparently there's tunnels underneath downtown Dayton, which I did not know this, because people that go to the University of Dayton, like the students there, will use the tunnels for like parties and stuff. But they have like a whole underground sewer system. They said it's like huge, and like these sewers down there are really deep and large and cavernous. So you could like take a whole like huge like truck, like a semi truck down there and stuff.
That's kind of wild. How big?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I was totally floored when that story broke. I'm like, I've never ever heard of this ever. I mean, I had some friends that were like into goth and all that, but I don't ever remember them. They would listen to The Cure and stuff. I don't ever remember them talking about going to Dayton to go hang out in a goth club or anything.
But you could have missed out.
I know. Dang it, I missed out on that one. Anyway. So I guess we should go ahead and get started today, since we're both here and we both have stories that we found. So we'll go ahead and you can go ahead and get started today. So what is your story about today?
So we're going to talk about the Circleville Letters, which Circleville
I've never heard this.
Is actually, you've never heard of it? Okay. So no. Circleville, Ohio, which is like pretty close to where I live. It's about like, I think 20 miles south-ish of Columbus. So this is another Ohio story.
I was going to say, here we go. Ohio's in the news again.
Ohio's got a lot of weird stuff going on, and this is kind of like one of those true crime mysteries, because it's like a real case that happened. So in 1977, a bunch of very strange and threatening letters started to be delivered to newspapers, elected officials, and even like just normal citizens.
Okay.
Something I like noticed when looking, because they were written like super cryptically, like a really distinct like word style, probably to disguise their actual handwriting. You know how some people do that.
Yeah.
Like, wasn't the Zodiac Killer did something similar? We did like the.
Yep.
Is that the one I'm thinking of? With the weird, yeah.
Yeah, rewritten like the real kind of glyphs or whatever, or
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, you had to decipher it. Yeah.
Most of them were about, or a good chunk of them were about this alleged affair between bus driver Mary Gillespie and the superintendent of the school, Gordon Maisie. So a lot of people would get these, and they weren't just about this, but this is kind of like the big story that would go on. So Mrs. Gillespie got a letter with her name and said, "Stay away from Macy. Don't lie when questioned about meeting him. I know where you live. I've been observing your house and know you have children. This is no joke. Please take it serious. Everyone concerned has been notified. It will be over soon."
Okay, that's pretty cryptic and
It's
weird.
very cryptic, but like a lot of people were getting like this similar kind of messages in there. Or, like,
so did
letters.
they think it was like a jaded lover or something that was mad, or the
I don't
wife
know.
or
It gets
something?
pretty insane. Like this,
Oh,
we're
okay.
gonna find out because there's like some theories. But it wasn't just a campaign of letters. People were receiving ominous phone calls, and then there were offensive signs being hung up all around the town. Specifically along her bus route. Mary's husband, Ron, started getting them as well. And he would have to, it kind of sucks, but he has to go up and pick up the signs about his wife and his kids around the thing.
That sucks.
And so he actually received a letter and said, Mr. Gillespie, your wife is seeing Gordon Maisie. You should catch them together and kill them both. He doesn't deserve to live.
Oh my gosh,
like,
wow.
These are like buck wild, like pretty crazy, like threatening.
Yeah.
So he ended up trying to get to the bottom of it, and he was trying to get to Macy and like talk to him, but Macy was also receiving letters threatening him. So there was a lot going on.
Yeah, sounds like a lot.
About August of 1977, Ron got a call late one night, and he got so enraged and upset about the call, he picks up a gun and he gets in his truck and he drives off. Well, he was planning on confronting the letter writer, but
how did he figure out who it was?
He was who he believed. We don't know because
gotcha.
Well, while he was driving there, he was driving at a fast speed and he lost control of the truck, went off the road and hit a tree and was killed.
Oh my! Wow. That sucks.
So it really shook the community after that, because a lot of people kind of thought that it was a setup or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say, now they're gonna think that, you know, the person writing the letters killed him on purpose. You know what I mean? Or it's yeah.
So obviously it doesn't stop. So 1983. So we've jumped quite a bit.
Right.
The writer hung up some more signs along the bus route containing obscenities regarding the 13-year-old daughter of the bus driver, Mary. Mm-hmm. Upon observation of the sign, Gillespie, Mary, the mother, actually discovered a booby-trapped box containing a loaded gun, which was rigged to fire upon removing the sign.
Oh my gosh, that's scary.
Right? That's like...
That's insane. Scary. That's like somebody that's unhinged. That's
like,
not good.
I mean, yeah, he was writing to newspapers, anything this guy could write to try and stir up the pot. Huh. They did find out that I think the letters were written from Columbus. So whoever was writing the letters was actually located in Columbus, or at least that's where the letters were coming from.
Huh.
Interesting. We don't know, like, just because they were coming from Columbus doesn't mean they're from, like, the person
right,
who went
no,
there. But,
they could have just driven to the mailbox there.
Driving there
and dropping them off. Yeah, no, I gotcha.
Yeah. So, they were able to actually restore part of the serial number of the gun to figure out who it was, like, whose gun it was. And it actually, they traced it back to a guy named Paul Fresher. His wife, Karen Sue, was actually the brother of Ron, the one that died.
Wait a minute. Karen Sue was the brother of the Ron?
No.
Wait.
Paul, the guy who had the guy.
Okay.
The gun.
Okay.
His wife Karen Sue, it was her brother, was Ron.
Oh, okay.
His wife's
You've messed that up
brother.
before.
I'm trying to like explain it. It gets a little confusing.
Okay, go ahead.
But Ron and Karen are siblings. Does that make sense?
I gotcha. Yeah, now we're good. Okay.
But Ron's dead because he's the one that got hit in the
he's the one that got in the head-on crash. Yeah.
So now they're kind of like honing in on these two because now there's like some sort of connection. But it's possible like they could have set it up.
Yeah.
There's a lot of what if scenarios in this story because it gets a little crazy. So they did find out that the gun was his.
Okay.
Allegedly, he said it was stolen, but it is what it is. And then Karen, so they interviewed Karen, and she said that Paul was like really close to Ron and Mary, and they thought really highly of them both. But after Ron's death, Paul hated Mary because of the whole ordeal.
Why did he think Mary killed him or something?
Because of the whole Maisie thing. Because remember the whole alleged affair?
Yeah, that's
so I feel like because he's starting to blame
Yeah,
Mary
I see what you're saying.
this.
He feels
I don't
like
even know if it's real, like if the affair is real or not, or if this guy was just being crazy.
Right.
So then Karen Sue told them that her estranged husband was behind Circleville's anonymous letters. So now the Karen girl is trying to say that so they're estranged. So doesn't that mean that they're
separated? Whatever. Yeah,
so
divorce,
Karen
separated.
And Paul are going through the divorce. And they've been going through the divorce for a while. So now Karen's like, "Oh yeah, Paul. I think Paul has been writing the letters."
Yeah, because
she said
Paul's
that she
unhinged.
just so happened to find some hidden letters in their house.
Oh.
So I don't know who was. It seems like it's a whodunit kind of weird situation.
It could be her too. She could have just lied and said they were written by him. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So.
So they ever find out who did it, or is it still?
Paul gets convicted because it was his gun that was in the little thing, and so he gets sent to prison for like 20 years.
Okay, but who wrote the letters?
But here's what you gotta listen, okay? Because it gets even crazier. I know it's already crazy, but it gets more crazy.
Okay.
So Paul gets convicted. He's put in jail, and while he's in jail, the writer starts writing him letters about bragging about how they set him up. And other people were getting letters during this time while he's in jail.
Okay.
So we don't think it's him now but he's still the one put in jail for the other ordeal.
But the other thing he did do, so he does deserve to be in jail, just not for the letter situation. Okay.
I know, it gets crazy. So there, like I said, there's a lot that. So Karen was actually going to be losing a lot in the divorce. Like she was going to be losing her home, her children's rights, and everything. So a lot of people think that she would gain a lot of benefit from Paul being in jail. Mm-hmm. So they think that she kind of framed him a bit.
Right.
So also interesting because there's still like letters going out, and they still don't know what's going.
Wait a minute. There's still letters going out to today?
Allegedly. No one's like...
Wow. Huh.
I don't think there's been a recent one, but no one's also like... There's been a lot of people claiming they've been it, but then they kind of get debunked or not. Like...
So we still don't know who wrote the letters.
Yes. But, so, Unsolved Mystery tried to go?
Yeah. That's
like,
show,
they actually went and they did cover it. But, like, while they were, like, talking about it and planning, they actually received a letter from the guy in the mail. Like a postcard.
Serious?
He says, "Forget Circleville, Ohio. If you come to Ohio, you else sickos will pay. The Circleville Rider."
Oh, my.
So, Paul Fresher did
crazy.
die.
Did he?
Oh, and so he's been dead today, but... He was released in 1994, and then as soon as he got released from jail, all the letters stopped.
Huh.
But they're like, it was very weird that it randomly stopped as soon as he got out.
Right? That is weird.
It's really suspicious. I don't know. There's but it's hard to tell if they're real letters or if they're just some like copycats. Because that happened with the Zodiac Killer too, didn't there? Like a lot of Zodiac Killer.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
So honestly, I feel like it's hard to really say unless they are able to like, get like physical evidence or something like on the letters.
Weird.
But I didn't realize that was a whole thing going on.
Yeah, I never remember hearing about that at all. Huh. Interesting.
I think I'd heard about it before, but I didn't look too far into it. But I thought it was interesting. It was kind of close to us, too.
Yeah. Good old Ohio. We're good for some crazy stuff.
We've got some weird stuff going on.
Yes, we do. Did you see there was a claim recently that there was a Bigfoot sighting? Was it not too far from you, somewhere like near Columbus or somewhere up that way. Like recently, like last year or the year before.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I just saw that on some, I forget where I saw it at, but I was like, huh, that's interesting.
That is interesting. All right, well, what do you have for us today?
Okay, well, I also have a true crime story for us today.
Oh boy, it's a true crime episode.
I know today's true crime day, but anyway, this story is kind of interesting. Okay, so there was this couple, okay, and they lived in Europe. Well, they started off in Europe. They ended up going to Australia. So anyway, let me explain. And some crazy stuff happened along the way. This lady's like nuts, I think. But anyway, so it starts out that there was this couple. There's a lady by the name of Leanne and her husband John, and their last name is Sabin. Now, this couple, they have 5 kids, okay? And in 1969, they decide that they are going to abandon their 5 children because the mom, Leanne, would like to be a singer in a cabaret in Sydney. So they were living in Wales at the time. So they went to Australia and they dropped their kids off in a children's home in Australia, and her and the husband headed to Sydney so that she could be in this cabaret because she thought she was going to be some famous, actress or whatever. So they had a 4-week contract apparently to go live in Sydney and, do all this. Well, as it turns out, she only had after the contract was up, she never did get signed on to do anything else. And they were too poor to afford anything else. So they ended up moving back to the UK, but they left their children in New Zealand.
What?
Yeah, this is it, and that's only part of it.
Why did they leave their children in New Zealand?
Right? It's pretty fucked up because, this lady's just off her gourd. So anyway, so she is said to have killed her husband in 1997 and had kept his body in her home for 18 years after he died.
That's weird.
And I'm going to explain about how she got away with that for so long and what all was going on. So basically is what happened is once she moved to, once they both moved to the UK, her husband was with her at first, okay? And then all of a sudden he disappeared. And they were living in this little mining town that, is so weird. Like people knew each other kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this lady was very flamboyant because, she thought she was going to be this great, actress or whatever. And she would wear like really outlandish clothes for her age type thing. She was wearing like fishnet stockings and jean shorts at the age of 60. Like, okay, I don't know a lot of 60-year-olds that do that. Okay, maybe Cher, but not most 60-year-old women. So anyway, she's kind of got a very bold personality. So they, like I said, they moved in, it was around 1997 that they ended up moving to UK. So while they're there, her husband moves with her. All of a sudden, she comes out with a story that her husband has left her. Okay, he just up and decided one day he's going to leave her. All right, and nobody asked any questions about, where's your husband at? What happened to him? Nothing. Nobody. I guess they didn't have a lot of family because nobody inquired about him or where he was or what was going on. And she would tell these wild stories and everybody would just believe her because that's the way she was. So, fast forward like 18 years, and she gets cancer, okay? And, she obviously is not doing so well. And where she lives at is there's 4 other homes that are next to hers. They call them flats when you live in the UK and over in England and that. And they all share a common backyard, okay? So the people that lived with her in the 4 other flats always talked about how she mentioned that she had this skeleton, this medical skeleton that she had gotten when she was a nurse, when she was working as a nurse at one point. So, and nobody thought anything of it. They thought, oh, that's cool. She's got this crazy skeleton that, she puts on display or whatever. Well, she never really put it on display, but, she always talked about it.
Yeah.
So, so the husband, he's been dead and nobody's really, questioning it too much. So she has these friends, okay? And the one lady that she's really good friends with comes and takes care of her because she's gotten cancer now and she's older. Well, people would come over and visit her, and she would always tell them that, when I die, there's going to be a story. I'm going to be really famous after I die. There's going to be something crazy that's going to come out. And people would just look at her and think she was like, a little bit nuts or whatever, and just kind of ignore her and brush it off. So, finally is what happened is, her best friend, her name was Leanne, and another friend of hers, or not Leanne, I'm sorry, Leanne's friend's name is, person, right? Yeah, that's the name of the lady, sorry. Leanne's friend's name was Ryan Lee, okay? And her and another lady by the name of Michelle found his body. So, yeah, Michelle lived next door to Leanne, okay? And she would go over there and they would drink wine and stuff, and, they would tell stories and stuff. And she'd always talk about the skeleton, and she'd be like, oh, yeah, the skeleton's under my bed. Or she'd talk about how she moved it up to the attic, or she'd move it someplace, she'd like move it just randomly around the house. She always had her windows open in her house, which was kind of strange to everyone. And she would have the rugs like, come and cleaned like once a year or something, okay? So people thought that was all a little strange. So Michelle was and the other girl named Riley were sitting, this was after the main lady Leanne had passed away, okay? So they're sitting out on their little porch, okay, and they're having some coffee and they're chatting, and they thought it would be really funny if they because they knew where it was, if they grabbed the old medical skeleton and put it on the porch and invited another friend over and just have the skeleton, be sitting there as a way to like scare them or whatever, okay, like a funny little prank. So they decide they're going to go get the body that they know is, shared in the yard where Michelle lives, because of her flat being next to where Leanne used to live. So they go and they grab the body bag, or the body, and it's been wrapped up, okay? Over all these years, Leanne had wrapped it in like plastic, okay? And it's kind of big. So they start to open it up. And when they start to open it up, they find that there's like 12 or 14 layers of plastic, like plastic bags from a grocery store wrapped around it. And as they start to go further in, they notice there's like this black slimy stuff on it. And at that point, the one that Michelle starts to get worried and tells her friend that she thinks they found a dead body, because then it starts to smell really bad, and they're getting a little worried. So they decide that they need to call the police. So they call the police, and the police come, and they start cutting through the layers, and that's when they come to realize that yes, it really was a dead body. So they said that the way she had preserved the body, it basically created a mummification, which basically means that no decomposition had decomposition had happened, and there were no maggots on the body because of the way she had fixed it. So they said that Leanne was this charismatic person, and she would tell all these crazy, crazy, wonderful stories, and was very entertaining. And, she would talk about the skeleton, but nobody like really believed her. And she actually called an old friend of hers that lived in New Zealand and told her, they were talking, and she was asked about John, and she said, "Oh, I killed," the friend was like, "Oh, I figured you two would have killed each other by now," as a joke. You know how people say that sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
Well, Leanne tells her, "Oh yeah, I killed him," and then just, like very randomly and very weirdly. And the lady just like kind of ignored it and pretend like she didn't say it or whatever. So, the husband's body of John was found on November 24th of 2015, which was 25 days after Leanne had died from cancer. Interestingly enough, the woman that I told you about who had found the body, the Michelle lady, Michelle James, she was actually the person that when the police came, she was the prime suspect. They suspected that she was the one that had killed the guy.
Oh.
So the police ended up taking her, and they were interrogating her and all that, because it turns out at the time her boyfriend was missing. Okay, which does not bode well for her when, they just found a dead body of some man, and then all of a sudden her boyfriend's missing. But they found the boyfriend, and then she explained how she knew, because they wanted to know how she knew where the skeleton was. And she explained to that Leanne, who, she was friends with, had told her where the body was and stuff, where it was and all that. And that's how she knew, that there was a skeleton in there, but she didn't think it was a real skeleton. So she finally got off when the police realized that it was not her that had killed him. And when the boyfriend showed up, that kind of sealed the deal that she was not the killer. But what they did come to find out was that the way Leanne had killed him was she had a frog, this like porcelain frog that she had in her house, ceramic frog, and she hit him on the head with it, and she hit him hard enough that she basically, brunt force trauma. It basically killed him instantly. But he had, she had broken his skull, but there was like an indenture in there where like the eye socket of the frog and the leg of the frog, they could like tell by the indenture in his skull that was what had been used to kill him. Also, interestingly enough, the couple met were reunited with their children in like the 1980s. Okay, all 5 of their kids. But the kids were not happy, as they should not be, that their parents had given them up just so the mom could go and, be some famous actress lady or whatever.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And 2 of the kids ended up calling their version of whatever are, the kids for kids, 321 kids or whatever the version was there. They ended up calling them and ratted out their parents for giving them up. Well, John and Leanne, they ended up going on the run, and that's how they ended up back in Wales. That all happened after, or in the UK, that all happened after they had given up the kids, or they had been reunited with the kids. They finally told people what had happened because they were so mad that, their parents did that to them. Yeah. But yeah, so that's the story of that. It's crazy that, she killed him, and then her friend, the neighbor, is the one that, they were thinking had done it, but it was really her. But I just can't believe she gave up her kids like that just so she could go be this famous actress, and then kills her husband. Apparently, the story goes that she was mad because her husband was remorseful for having left the children, and she was tired of hearing about it. So I guess he was talking about it one night, and she just got mad and whacked him with the frog, and that was the end of him.
What the heck?
And then all those years that he had been dead, so like the past 18 years, she'd been collecting all of his money from his pension and been putting it in a bank account with both their names on it. And nobody ever questioned any of that. I'm like, this is insane. But yeah, they finally found her out in the end. And the one lady was like, I don't understand why she never told me that, what she had done. Because in the end, when she had the cancer and all that, she's like, they wouldn't have been able to put her in jail because, she's going to die anyway, right? I mean, what's the point in but at least, people would have closure and they would know what happened, And then that one lady would have never, like the lady that found him, the Michelle lady, she said that she had to go through therapy for like 6 months when she found that body, because you're thinking it's just a plastic you're thinking it's just a plastic skeleton. Next thing you know, it's actually a real dead person. But yeah, there's like a whole documentary that they're doing on this. Like, it's in the UK right now. They're saying that it's supposed to be coming on one of the streaming channels. I don't know which one yet, but it'd be interesting to see. She was like a real piece of work, this lady was. She was very much all about herself, and she was very eccentric, and she'd call everybody darling, and she'd walk around like she was made of, millions of, like she had all this money when she really didn't, and just, she was very, I don't know, very
Not
dangerous
demure.
woman. No, but
Not
she'd
very
pretend
demure.
like she was. Yeah, she pretended like she was. And she dressed like, if you saw the pictures of her, she dressed like in a way you would not expect a 60-year-old woman to dress. It's just crazy. I'm like, okay. But based off of how, she wanted to be like, in the cabaret and all that, she almost looks like somebody that was in the cabaret if it was still going on today, kind of thing.
Yeah. That checks
But
out.
yeah. So that's my story of the body next door.
It reminds me of that. Do you remember that case of that kid who he was like, "What's in your room?" and he just like had some person's cut off head in his room?
No, I don't think I've ever heard.
And the
that
mom
one.
found it, and she like freaked out and called the police because she was like cleaning his room and found like a body.
Oh my god, no, never heard that one. That's pretty
I
messed
feel like
up
that was
too.
circling a few, because me and Mario were watching that the other day.
Huh.
But it just had the kind of weird. I mean, this was like a kid, like a teenager, but still.
Yeah, but it's still a kid. I mean, they're under the legal age of 18, so. Yeah, there's some pretty crazy. I'm like, what goes through your mind that makes you feel like you need to do that? And those two, I mean, I don't understand. Why did they have kids if, I mean, like the youngest one, when they gave up their kids, was like 2. I'm like, why did you even have kids if you know what I mean? It's obvious you didn't want them because you're, putting them into a foster care or whatever they have over in New Zealand.
I found the article about it. So, like, they discovered a head in his closet. Like,
oh my god, just like a random real person head?
Yeah, I guess he, I mean,
was it a friend or who was it?
Crazy because I saw the clip, because he's like, yep, because they interviewed him and they were like, so what's in your closet? He's like, oh, just a head of a person I cut off. Like, just so casual, and so it was circling. Yeah. This was pretty recent, but it reminded me of just how crazy. And they found his wallet. They found his wallet at the crime scene, like because it was like an old man he killed.
Oh my! So he left his wallet there? Well, duh. That's like what not to do 101 if you're a killer, I guess. Don't leave your belongings hanging around for people to find out who did it.
Yeah, for real. That was pretty wild.
That is pretty wild. I can't believe I just had his. Didn't it stink in there though? I'd have to imagine after a while that's gonna smell.
I mean, it was in like a garbage bag or something.
Oh dear God, that's even worse.
Luckily, the parents turned him in, but he was a 19-year-old.
Oh, so he obviously
it was messed up. It was a homeless man too. I think like a bunch of people who were like friends with the homeless man were like concerned, and you know how like the police is when the homeless involved, they don't want to help out.
Yeah, they don't really care.
I mean, unfortunately,
as much as they should.
A lot of homeless people get killed. And this is what happened to that guy.
Yeah, and nobody gives them justice because the police don't care. Huh.
But yeah,
that's
I think
crazy.
This happened a few years ago, but it was circling. It was making the rounds on, the internet earlier this year.
Huh. I had never heard that one.
Yeah, welcome to our true crime portion.
Yeah, right? Today was a true crime one, yeah.
But it was scary true crime.
Yeah, really.
Well, if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at 2ScaredyCatsPodcast and YouTube. And please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these 2 scaredy cats.